Hey YouTube, Vinny M here. Welcome to another video here on the channel. Today we have another World War II reenacting informational video for you. And in today's video, we will be doing part 2 in a 3-part series on World War II lighters. In part 1, we covered the Ronson and Evans lighters. In part 2 today, we will be covering the service and trench lighter category. And in part 3, we will cover the black crackle lighter category, which includes the infamous Black Crackle Zippo, as well as black crackle lighters made by other manufacturers like Parker, Zypher, and so forth. Today, we will be looking at a category of lighters that is most frequently referred to as trench lighter. However, it is a very incorrect name to call them trench lighters. You see, all of the lighters in front of you are actually manufactured lighters. By definition, a trench lighter is a lighter that is typically made from a shell casing that a soldier makes in a trench by brazing parts together or fabricating something by hand that works as a lighter. All of these are manufactured lighters, which means they're not truly trench lighters. They are in fact manufactured purpose-built lighters. And because of that, they're more appropriately referred to as service lighters. The first service lighter we're going to look at today is the Dunhill service lighter and the Parker service lighter. And you may be thinking, you said the first lighter we're going to look at, and then you proceeded to name two different lighters. I did, but I didn't. They are actually the same. You see, Dunhill is a British company that made this lighter, and it had an American subsidiary known as Parker, which made this lighter. There are very few differences between the Dunhill service lighter and the Parker service lighter because they are in fact the same company. One is just the American branch and one is just the British branch. So we will look at the Dunhill first because it actually comes fully apart, unlike my Parker. And then I'll just show you the differences between your American version and your British version. So these are actually called service lighters. That is the name. You can see that on the bottom here. It says Dunhill Service Lighter. Even has a U.S. patent pending mark on it. So this works much like a Zippo, a Ronson, or any other lighter of the time. It has a flint in this tube, which has a spring in the bottom. You get to it with that screw. That spring pushes up on the flint, and that will roll your striker wheel. Right? Whenever you roll the striker wheel, you naturally pull back the snuffer cap. It's not spring-loaded or anything. Your thumb is just pulling it back when you roll the wheel. That's all it's doing. It uses cotton in the base, which you pour fuel into, just like on a Zippo or anything else. And it has a little compartment here where you keep an extra wick rolled up in the cap. And it actually says extra flints, pull. But mine had a wick in it, so I put a wick back in it. And it was like that when I got it. So pretty much the same design we see on all of these World War II lighters. It's cotton, you put the oil in, or fuel, or whatever you're using it with. And the striker, flint, all a spring-loaded assembly. It does have a wind shroud on the top that's full of holes, and the Dunhills are always painted brown unless the paint's wore off. It's not a very durable paint, so it does come off pretty easy, as you can see. Take note of what the base cap on the Dunhill looks like. It's pretty flush, doesn't really have any knurling on it, just a little bit to help you unscrew it. So when we look at the Parker service lighter, the American version, it says Parker service lighter, made in the USA, patent pending. But that base is a very large knurled base, and mine doesn't come off. But that was one of the differences with the Parker. Same size, same design, same flint tube, same screw on the bottom of it, same wheel that you roll to light it with your wick down in there. There was one other notable difference. The Dunhill's snuffer cap was square in shape. The Parker's was round. But that's about it. You strike them and you push them closed by hand. There's no springs or anything in those mechanisms. The patent for this that I could find is 1944. That doesn't mean that that's the date they started making them. It just means it's the date that they filed the patent. I have a suspicion that most of these are older than that, but unfortunately I cannot prove it. So let's look at that, as well as the boxes they originally came in when they were purchased by troops, and some information that says that this was a private purchase item through the PX. Here we have a March 17th, 1944 patent for the Parker lighter, followed by some information from a website about these lighters showing that Parker is a subsidiary of Dunhill and that these lighters were available in the PXs of military bases. Directly under that on the same website is this advertisement, which is an early advertisement for the Parker lighter showing them to cost $1. Here we have a Dunhill advertisement from 1945 depicting their lighters with service members on the advertisement. Here we have a 1944 Dunhill advertisement, which shows both their rope lighter and the service lighter. We'll see the rope lighter again later on in the video. Here we have a pretty typical display rack that would be at like the checkout counter of a store, showing the Parker lighters. And here we have the individual Parker lighter packaging, which was a cream colored box with a red square that said Parker service lighter inside of it in cream color. And the Dunhill individual package seen here is pretty much the same, which makes sense because they have the same parent company. Here we have 3 Dunhill lighters. We have a brown, a gray, and a navy blue. The Dunhills did come in various colors, where the Parkers are always usually silver. 3 more Dunhills here, and these are the models that have leather wrap across the center portion of the lighter where the fuel tank is. Then here we have a Dunhill on the left that's silver, and then 2 Parkers. Notice the Parkers are different. Each one has a different snuffer cap and a different windscreen. The next lighter we have is the Bowers. The Bowers lighter is the one that gets called a trench lighter the most often. Trench lighter, again, a term for a lighter made in the trenches during World War I. This is a manufactured lighter from 1925, so it's not a trench lighter. Works pretty much like everything else we've seen as far as the fueling and striking mechanisms, but it is a little bit more mechanical than the Parker and Dunhill that we have already looked at. You unscrew the bottom to put the fuel in to a cotton wicking material, just like all the other lighters of the time. This channel right here has a spring in it. Your flint is in front of that, and you turn the wheel to strike it. You may be wondering, well, how do you get to the wick? Because the wick is covered. You hold it down here at these 2 little protrusions, and you push down on your wheel. That slides up the vent cage, your windproof cage, your windscreen, and then you can light your lighter. When you have lit your lighter, lit your cigarette, you want to put it out, you just push the bottom up. It will hinge and pivot that bell back over your wick and snuff it out. So it's a little bit more mechanical than the others, a little harder to use one-handed in my opinion. It can be done, as you just saw, but it's not ideal in my opinion to use one-handed. I think it's about the most finicky and difficult to use of all of the World War II options. It is labeled Bowers in this shield right here. It says Kalamazoo, Michigan down one side of the flint tube, USA on the back, and Bowers Manufacturing right here. The lighter was patented in 1925, 1926. They were made for about 5 or 10 years after the patent was filed. It's one of the lesser common World War II lighters. And just like all the lighters we've looked at, there is no quartermaster catalog listing or number or procurement contract that I can find for these lighters, despite the fact that they are listed as being a military lighter. And just like with all the others, including Zippos, that leaves very few avenues for how the military got these. Pretty much private purchase or private purchase through the PX or ship store or avenues like that. So I hate to beat a dead horse when I talk about these lighters, but everybody wants to jump on my ass about the fucking Black Crackle Zippo and be like, it was issued to everybody in the military. It was turned into lighter. There is no quartermaster catalog number, listing, or anything for a Zippo lighter in World War II in the United States military that I can find. Nothing. Did the company send Zippos to the military? Yes, probably to be sold in the PXs. And it's no different for this lighter or these lighters or any other lighter. Plus, companies had the right to send troops anything they wanted. I mean, Red Cross care packages were just that, free stuff sent to the military. A company could make 1,000 lighters if they wanted to and give them away at no cost. And guess what? They were issued to troops, but they were not issued through the quartermaster as a standard issue item. So this one right here is one that we see pretty much the least of all of the options. Here we have about the only patent I can find for a lighter of this type, listing it as an Austria utility patent. Here we have some advertising for this type of lighter from 1946, as you can see. Here's some more advertising. It actually shows the Parker on this one as well, so showing that they are competition to each other. And yet more advertising. And you can see these lighters were only 98 cents in 1950. You see some of these that are of a brass construction. You see others that are silver. You also see oval ones like on the left and round ones like on the right. So there does appear to be some variance. Here's a pretty good lineup of the various models you would see and the different colors they would come in. They also had a table model, which was nothing more than the screw base that covers the wicking material being a dish. And this is what an actual trench lighter looks like. It was handmade, so you can kind of see why these get called trench lighters. The last lighter we have today is the rope lighter, also referred to as a trench lighter, also referred to as a ship's lighter. There's all kinds of names for these guys, but this is probably the simplest one of them all. It is a double tube. One tube has your flint and spring in it with your striker wheel on top. The other tube has a piece of rope with a little piece of metal on a hook that goes through the wick that runs through that side of the tube. And all you do is you light the rope until it smolders. See it smoldering? Then you touch your cigarette to it to light it, and then you just pull it down to put it out. And that's how these worked. I've seen a lot of different makers of these. I've seen, I think it's Wing King the most. The ropes are usually orange during the World War II time period, not white, which is of some interest. I'll show you some pictures here in a second of some originals. And this was a lighter design that was designed so that you could light your cigarette or whatever without an open flame, right? Because if it's nighttime and you have the enemy watching you and you light a full flame lighter, the enemy could see that flame and shoot artillery at you. The whole idea behind this type of lighter was you could light it, light your cigarette or whatever, and the enemy would never see an actual flame because it's made from a rope that basically smolders without ever having an actual flame. So that was the whole idea behind these rope lighters. This is a lighter you never see in World War II living history or reenacting, but based off the numbers that you can find available today that are originals, quite a few of them were made during that time period. Let's have a look at that. Here we see the most prominent one I find on eBay, the Wind King lighter, which says it absolutely can't be blown out, which is also absolutely a lie. Here we have the Dunhill version, and you can see they all vary just a little bit in the length of the tube that holds the flint or in the actual shape of the snuffer piece. Here we have the Army and Navy Storm Lighter, and it has one of the shortest flint tubes and has a little ball for the snuffer piece. Here we have what is listed to be a French variant, which has no snuffer at all and a very short flint tube. And then here we have kind of the same thing, but this one is engraved and it does have a snuffer, which is actually not a ball but a flat cap. Now that you have seen all of these lighters up close, you've seen original World War II packaging for them, you've seen what marketing I could find about them, and you've seen what patents I could find about them, now hopefully you have a better understanding of the fact that Zippo wasn't the only lighter used by U.S. forces in the Second World War. I think it's really important to keep the history alive, the whole history, and not just certain parts of it. And one thing that I can't stand is everyone that beats their chest about how Zippo was the standard issue lighter that everybody got and it's what everybody had, because it wasn't. I think it's important to remember these other companies and their design innovations, because a lot of these companies just copied Zippo or Ronson because those were the two biggest names. But then you have companies like this that went and they did something completely different. And I think you have to respect that. So hopefully you found this video informational. That's all I have for you guys today. As always, like and subscribe, and have a nice day.